Hello, guys, and welcome to SGR. Today, we're going to be reviewing the game Enter the Gungeon. Let's start. Enter the Gungeon is a pretty old game. It came out in 2016 and was developed by Dodge Roll and published by Devolver Digital. The genre of this game is roguelike bullet hell, where staying in one place without dying is literally impossible. But don't let that scare you, as it is a very fun game. Gameplay wise, starting out, when you first load up the game, you will be greeted to a story about how the Gungeon came to be. After that, you will enter a tutorial where Sir Manuel explains you the basics of the game. By now, you should have realized how the game works, but when you start out entering the Gungeon, it seems pretty dry. This is because there's a lot of things you need to unlock, like the guns, the NPCs, all the items in the game, and can only unlock that by actually playing the game and completing a few runs of the Gungeon. About the playable characters, in the breach, the starting area of the game, you will find 4 playable characters called Gungeoneers. Each of the 4 Gungeoneers have special abilities which are unique to them, and none of them share the same abilities. So each character is completely unique in their own way. These are the beginner characters. There are more. There are actually 9 characters, playable characters, but the rest of the 5 characters are unlocked using different methods. Actually, one of the 5 is only playable through co-op mode. So each of the characters have their own special abilities that are completely unique to them. Some of them have starter items and some of them have special abilities. Like the pilot can give you discounts at the shop, and the hunter actually has a dog that can dig up items, and she also has a secondary crossbow weapon, which is a very good boss clearing weapon. The starting recommendation for your first run through the Gungeon should be the hunter, because she has a dog which, obviously, as I said before, it can dig out items per room cleared. It has a chance to dig out items, so keep that in mind. And also she has a crossbow which deals a lot of damage and can one shot most enemies on the first and second floor. Moving on to the weapon, there are over 300 weapons in Enter the Gungeon.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
And keep in mind, this is discounting all the synergies, which I'll talk about later on in this video. This game is filled to the brim with all sorts of weapons, and the last update that came out in 2019 brought in 30 more guns and ton more synergies. The guns range from a bullet that shoots guns that shoots more bullets as it spins around, to like a rainbow sword to a lowercase r. Yeah, that's literally a gun, and it's a pretty good one. One thing to keep in mind though is that not all guns are unlocked from the start. You unlock very few guns, which include the pea shooter, which you gain in the tutorial, and like 4 or 5 other guns. Basically, those are the starter weapons of the different characters. Other than that, you just have to unlock them through playing the game or through buying them from like NPC shops that you unlock by playing the game. So basically, just start out. There is nothing actually to explore in the breach when you first start out. Just start the game and you will unlock a lot more things. So yeah, there are like 300 weapons to discover, so not one of your playthrough will actually be the same. Moving on to synergies. Synergies were pretty basic concept from the start of the game, but with the 2019 update Farewell to Arms DLC, they added over 500 new synergies. So what are synergies? They are basically when 2 items, like an item or a gun, an item or an item, or a gun or a gun, synergize with each other, or basically combine with each other. In a sense, they don't really combine, it's just that they give you an added effect to the gun. So they stay as separate entities, but they give a special effect to one of the guns. It is pretty difficult to explain, but yeah, once you play the game, it will be pretty clear how those works. Moving on to NPCs. When you first start out in the breach, there will be no NPCs, as I've already said. There will be nothing. It's just empty. It's just 4 characters and a little bit of decoration here and there. So how do you unlock NPCs? Basically, once you start a run, there is a chance that on the floor, there are 5 floors to the Gungeon, which are basically like levels, and each floor has a bunch of rooms in it, right? So once you start a Gungeon run, there is a chance that there will be an NPC room. So that NPC room contains a locked NPC basically. Yeah, you will get a key that you can use to unlock the NPC. After that, the NPC may appear in the breach or it may appear in the future runs depending on the type of the NPC. There are some NPCs that give you a shop that you can buy stuff from, and there are some NPCs that appear later on in the Gungeon floors to give you a boost or maybe act as a shop, another shop. And there are some NPCs that give you quests. Bosses in Enter the Gungeon. So there are 2 or 3 different bosses that can spawn every floor, and those bosses are chosen at random. You don't have to fight all of them, you just have to fight one of the chosen boss. It is all up to RNG or random number generation, right? So which is randomness in the game. So each run you have a chance to get either this boss or this boss, and the first boss itself will take some time to figure out. Each boss has a pattern to it that once you learn it'll be very easy for you to defeat the boss, and you need a certain amount of practice before you can take on proper bosses, as it just comes through experience basically. The patterns, the when to dodge roll and when to just weave through the bullets. And to stand a better chance, you can gather up items or guns, but yeah, you can beat the first and the second floor boss with just your starter weapons, so that's not an issue. And if you choose the hunter, you already have an extra crossbow, which is a very good boss clearer, as I've already mentioned thrice before now. And moving on to the Gungeon itself, the Gungeon is a very random place. Every run of the Gungeon is unique, and it is completely random how the layout of the rooms is. The rooms are still pre-decided, but just the layout of the floor itself is random. The boss guns that you get from the chests are random. The NPCs that you encounter are random. The enemies per room is random. So yeah, you can see the amount of randomness to the game. But it is also a skill-based game. So as I've said, you can beat the first floor boss with just your starting weapon. Each character has their own starting weapon, and if you use them well, you can reach the second floor quite easily. But after that, you require some amount of planning, as each successive floor requires more and more planning. So be careful. So there are guns which are only for clearing out bosses. They're meant for clearing out bosses, and they can do good damage to bosses. And there are some weapons that are good for clearing out rooms of enemies. Conserving ammo is another very important point in the game. You should always conserve your ammo. Switch out to your starting pistol if there's just 1 or 2 enemies left. You will be good to go. Also, the average run of a Gungeon can last over an hour. And this is not counting the additional bullet hell floor that was added in another update which came out last year called Advanced Gungeons and Dragons. A complete run would be around an hour and a half. Also, none of the runs are ever the same due to the randomness of the Gungeon itself. Therefore, there's just hours and hours upon gameplay where I don't think you'll get bored. If you unlock more and more things each floor, just try to get better every floor, try to get further, and do the secret rooms and all that. Yeah, you're sure to have a lot of fun. Moving on to the art style and graphics. With these sort of pixely style graphics, you'd hope that the game would run on a low-end PC, but surprisingly it takes mid to high-end PC to run it smoothly, which is quite annoying, but the game looks pretty amazing and it has a lot of gameplay elements. So I suggest you use a mid-end PC to run the game. It can also be run on a low end. You'll just have to minimize the graphics a lot, and even then you'll have a bit of lag. You use mid-end PC to run the game. The art style itself is a top-down pixel voxel styled roguelike game. Animations are just fluid. It is a really nice experience, and each and every item is a somehow reference to the guns. The last boss of the normal Gungeon, not the bullet hell, is called Drag Gun, which is another pun. The characters are also called Gungeoniers, and there's just a ton of references. The game also has a ton of Easter eggs, which range from references to movies, games, to straight up items from the games. One such example is like the op from CSGO. which is quite nice. That was it for the video. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe, share the video, and thanks for watching.